when my wallet slipped and popped open in the gravel. She knelt to hand it back, saw the cracked photo, me with a little girl in a yellow dress, and her face went white like she'd just stepped into an old memory. "Dad?" she said, and the road suddenly felt too quiet. David Monroe didn't plan to stop. He had a short list in his head: pick up engine oil, grab milk for tomorrow's breakfast, be back before his 12-year-old, Sophie, got home from school, and the county road made that easy. It was late morning, clear and warm, the kind of simple day that keeps people moving. Windows down, radio low, toolbox thumping softly in the back. He liked days like this because they rarely asked for more than steady attention and a little kindness. Up ahead, hazard lights blinked on the right shoulder. A compact silver sedan sat, pulled over with the hood up. A young woman stood beside it, waving one hand a little, phone in the other, not frantic, but definitely stuck. David checked the mirror, signaled, and rolled onto the gravel a few car lengths behind her. He parked well, left space, and stepped out into the bright noon light. "You okay there?" he called, friendly and calm, the way he would want someone to sound if Sophie were ever stranded. The woman turned with obvious relief. Early 20s, neat ponytail, steady eyes. "I think it overheated," she said. The temperature light came on and the power dropped. "I pulled off right away, but the phone signal here is useless." "Good call pulling over," he said. "I'm David." "Victoria," she said. "Thank you for stopping." "Let's take a quick look," he said, already moving toward the open hood. "I won't touch the cap until it cools. We'll be smart." David had done this more times than he could count. He wasn't a mechanic by trade, but he was a father, and fathers learn to fix things. He listened, looked, and kept his hands where they should be. A loose fan connector, maybe a belt that had stretched, a coolant reservoir sitting just under where it ought to be. Small problems, but small problems become big problems if you pretend they aren't there. "You got any water?" he asked. "Not to pour in, just for testing heat, and to clean a bit." Victoria opened the passenger door and pulled a half bottle from the cup holder. "Here." "Thanks," he said. He dabbed a little near the cap, watched it bead and steam, then waited. He studied the connector on the cooling fan and pressed it home with a click that sounded right. The fan didn't spin yet, but he had a path in mind. He took a slow breath. No rush. Bright day. Good visibility. Everything in his favor. "Where were you headed?" he asked, making easy conversation while he waited for the heat to drop. "Into town," she said. "I've got a meeting at 1. I left early, but..." She gestured at the car and gave a small, embarrassed laugh. "Bad plan. Late is better than stranded," he said. "We'll get you rolling to the service station. It's 4 miles down, straight shot." She watched him work. No showy moves, no muttering. Just clean steps done in the right order. It made the situation feel manageable. He had that effect, the quiet way of people who have been through worse and stayed on their feet. She noticed his hands, capable, nicked a little, the hands of a man who repairs things instead of replacing them. "Do you do this a lot?" she asked. "Help people on the side of the road?" He shrugged. "When I see them. I keep tools in the truck. Comes with being a single dad. Something's always broken." "Your daughter?" she asked. "Sophie," he said, and a real smile touched his face. 12. Forgot what brand loyalty was the day she learned what duct tape can do. That earned a quick laugh from Victoria, the first easy sound she'd made since he arrived. The fan finally kicked on. David nodded, pleased. He checked the belt tension and decided he could snug it slightly to keep things stable until town. He grabbed the small ratchet from his toolbox and made the adjustment, careful and precise. "Okay," he said. "This should hold well enough to get you to the station. We'll top the reservoir just a little, then drive easy with the windows down so you can listen. If the temp climbs again, we pull over. No heroics." "Deal," she said. "I can't thank you enough." "You just did," he said lightly. "We'll call it even if you let me keep you in my mirrors until we reach the turn-in." Victoria nodded. She looked less tense now, more present. The sun caught on the edge of the hood and threw a clean line of light across the gravel. A couple cars went by, unbothered. The road seemed normal again. David closed the toolbox and set it near the bumper. He leaned in one more time to check the connector he'd reseated. The day kept everything honest. No shadows, no tricks. He liked that. He liked that he could help and still make it home on time. He liked how a straightforward problem could be solved with good habits and attention. "I'll pour a little," he said, unscrewing the reservoir cap with care. Then we'll bring it up to idle and see how she behaves. Victoria hovered a step back, watching. Do you do this for everyone, or did I just get very lucky? Bit of both, he said. Right place, right time, good weather. The world's easier in daylight. He didn't notice the small hazard building behind that thought. He didn't notice the way his back pocket sat loose when he shifted his weight. He didn't notice that the old leather he'd kept for years had softened more than it should. He noticed only the line on the reservoir, the sound of the fan, the steadiness of the engine, and the simple relief on a stranger's face. When he finished and tightened the cap, he looked at Victoria. All right, start her up. Let's see. She slid into the driver's seat and turned the key. The engine caught and settled. The temperature gauge rose to the middle and stayed there. The fan hummed. It all felt ordinary again. David gave a thumbs up. Good. Let it run for a minute. Victoria exhaled like she had been holding her breath since the first warning light. Thank you. Seriously. You're welcome, he said. We'll go together to the station. They'll check pressure and swap the belt if needed. She got out again, standing in the clear sun. David, it means a lot that you stopped. Some people slowed down, but he waved it off. You'd do the same. I think I would, she said. I hope I would. He believed her. He didn't say why. He just believed it. He wiped his hands with a clean rag, folded it, and slid it into his back pocket without looking. Then he moved to the front of the car for one more listen, head tilted, eyes half closed, the way people do when they're trying to hear truth in a machine. Sounds steady, he said. We'll keep it under 50. If anything changes, hazards on, we pull over. Simple plan. Simple as perfect, she said. They shared a brief, practical smile. Two strangers aligned by daylight, and a small problem that finally had a path forward. David stepped back, ready to wave her into the lane and lead the way. He still didn't feel the old wallet loosen against the smooth fabric of his work pants. He would, but not yet. The engine idled steady. Bright noon, clear sky, short shadows. David shifted for a better angle. His back pocket loosened. The wallet slipped, hit the sunlit gravel with a soft slap, and flipped open. I've got it, Victoria said, already crouching. She reached for the cards and froze on the photograph. A younger David. A little girl in a yellow dress on his shoulders. Both laughing toward the camera. The same soft corner crease. The same tiny scratch across the man's sleeve. Her breath caught. No slow processing. No guesswork. Recognition hit her like a switch. This is mine, she said, voice low, stunned. She lifted the photo with both hands. Not a copy, this exact picture. We had it at home. Same crease. Same scratch. Her eyes rose to him. Dad. The word landed between them, clean and final. David's hand stopped midair. For years he had told himself that if the day ever came, he might be wrong. Memory distorts, grief edits. But her face held the same lines he'd kissed goodnight when she was small. Her eyes were the same eyes from the photo. He had already noticed her name. He had already felt the pull. Now there was nothing left to doubt. Yes, he said, steady and quiet. Victoria. She blinked hard but didn't look away. Mom kept this photo in a children's book, she said. She taped over the back so I wouldn't read whatever was written there. I pulled it out when she wasn't home. I memorized everything. The yellow dress, the grass, your smile. She turned the photo over. The tape marks were faint. The ink showed through anyway, my girls. I wrote that the night it was taken, David said. No sales pitch. No performance. Just the truth. I believed naming it would help it last. Victoria's mouth trembled and then held. She told me not to believe in the picture, she said. Said the past was closed. That the man in it wasn't who he said he was. She lifted the photo a fraction. But I know this. And I know what it felt like when you smiled at me 10 minutes ago. It matched. I'm sorry for the ways I failed then, he said. I was young and stupid one night, and your mother left. After that, doors shut. Letters came back. Lawyers got involved. I never stopped hoping I'd see you. He took one breath. I've been a single dad a long while. Sophie's mom, Laura, passed from cancer 18 months ago. He left it there. One cause. One fact. No drama. Victoria nodded once, absorbing, not retreating. The fan hummed. The temperature needle stayed where it belonged. Daylight kept everything honest. She looked at the photograph again, then at him. Is the little girl here your daughter now? Yes, he said. Sophie, 12. And me? She asked, not tentative anymore, just making the truth official. You. he said, have always been my daughter. Her shoulders loosened like a knot finally gave. She stood, still holding the photo. I don't have the whole story, she said. But I don't need the whole story to know you are my father. I knew it the second I saw this. David opened the wallet in his palm. May I? Victoria slid the photo back into the corner sleeve herself, slow, precise, like placing something valuable where it belongs. The motion was simple. The meaning wasn't. She handed him the wallet. Their fingers touched. Neither apologized for the tears in their eyes. Neither tried to fill the moment with extra words. I was heading to a meeting, she said, half smiling at how small it sounded now. I'm not going. We'll get your car to the service station, David said. 4 miles, straight shot. I'll lead. After that, we can talk. Anything you want, nothing you don't. I want to talk, she said immediately. And I want to meet Sophie. She'll want to meet you, he said. More than you know. A pickup eased past, wind ruffling Victoria's jacket. The engine purred without drama. The road stayed ordinary. The day stayed bright. Only their lives had changed. Start her again? David asked, gentler than before. Victoria wiped her cheeks with the back of her hand and slid behind the wheel. She turned the key. The engine caught and settled. The gauge held. She exhaled, a sound halfway between a laugh and a sob, and looked at him through the windshield. He raised a hand. Follow me. She nodded. Don't go far. He didn't. He never had. Not in the ways that mattered. They didn't hug yet. That would come when the moment chose it. For now, they had a working car, a clear road, and a word that finally had a home. For a heartbeat after the word Dad, neither of them moved. Bright noon. Clear sky. The engine's fan humming like a metronome that refused to rush them. David kept his hands visible, steady, unsure if reaching would help or scare the moment away. Is it okay if I hug you? He asked, voice low. Victoria nodded so fast it almost looked like a flinch. She stepped in, and he met her halfway, careful at first, then sure. He held her the way you hold something you were certain you'd never see again. No speeches, no big gestures. Just a father and a daughter in full daylight on the side of a normal road, breathing through the shock while cars slid past and minded their own lives. She laughed once into his shoulder, an unsteady, relieved sound, then pulled back a little but didn't let go. I said it without thinking, she said. I saw the picture and it just came out. It fits, he said. You don't have to take it back. I won't, she said, wiping at her cheeks with quick fingers. I won't. He made himself check the practical things because that was how he kept people safe. Are you okay to drive? We'll go slow. I'll lead you to the service station. For miles. If the gauge climbs, hazards on, and we pull over. I can do that, she said, and then, testing the shape of it again. Okay, Dad. The word landed softer the second time, deeper too. They climbed in, David to his truck, Victoria to the silver sedan, and rolled out in a tidy line. The road stayed ordinary and bright. At the station, a mechanic gave them the fast lane, loose fan connector, tired belt, a reservoir that wanted topping, and a pressure test. Nothing catastrophic. They caught it in time. Daylight had done them that favor. Victoria took out her card. David shook his head. Please, let me do something a father does. She hesitated. Pride flickered. Then she nodded once. All right, but I'm buying lunch. Deal, he said. They sat on the curb outside the bay doors while the paperwork printed. The sun warmed the concrete. The air smelled like rubber and hand soap. She thumbed her phone, then put it away without typing. I don't know what to say next, she admitted. Everything I want to ask feels small and huge at the same time. We don't have to do it all today, David said. We can take this slow. He drew a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. I should tell you one thing up front. Sophie's mom, Laura, passed from cancer 18 months ago. It's been me and Soph since then. I'm sorry, Victoria said, immediate and sincere. That must have been a lot. We're doing okay, he said. Sophie's tough and kind. You'll like her. He smiled a little. She'll like you even more. I'd like to meet her, Victoria said. No hesitation. Today, if that's okay. It is, he said. She's at school until 3. We can swing by my place now, or grab something to eat and talk a bit first. Whatever feels right for you. She looked at him, measuring not facts but safety. Your place, she said. I want to see where you live. I want to know the shape of your day. Okay, he said. It's 10 minutes from here. I've got apples and bread and the world's most average peanut butter. That sounds perfect, she said, and smiled for real this time. They traded numbers. He texted a simple, "It's me," so she'd have it. She saved it under Dad, without hiding the screen. He watched her do it and swallowed hard. Some kinds of proof you never expect to see. "Can I ask just one small thing now?" she said, standing as the mechanic waved from the bay. "Not the big history. Just something simple." "Sure. Do you have pictures of Sophie?" she asked. "I want to see her before I meet her." He pulled out his phone and scrolled to the everyday photos. Sophie with a science fair ribbon. Sophie holding a lopsided birthday cake she'd insisted on icing herself. Sophie in a ball cap, sun in her eyes, pretending not to smile. He handed the phone over. Victoria studied them like they were a map to a place she'd been trying to find. "She looks brave," she said. "She is," he said. "You both are." The mechanic came out with the keys and a short rundown. Bolt replaced. Connector secured. Reservoir topped. No leaks under pressure. Take it easy for a few days and bring it back if anything feels off. David signed. Victoria thanked him. Business concluded, clean and simple. David looked at Victoria. "Ready?" "Ready," she said. "Lead the way." He paused, then added a quiet boundary that mattered. "If at any point this feels like too much, say so. We stop. We breathe. We slow down." "I will," she said. "And if I start crying again at random, just let me." "I will," he said. They walked to their cars. The sun stayed bright. The sky stayed clear. The day refused drama and gave them clarity instead. David slid into his truck, checked his mirror, and watched Victoria flash her lights once. "Go on. I'm here." He pulled out, and she fell in behind him, exactly where a good plan puts the most important thing you've just found. They drove the 10 easy minutes to David's place with the windows cracked and the radio off. The kind of quiet that isn't heavy, just full. The neighborhood was plain and friendly. Single-story homes, trimmed lawns, bikes tossed near porches, sunlight bright on every mailbox. David pulled into a small driveway and cut the engine. "It's not fancy," he said, "but it's ours." Victoria took in the front yard. A basketball hoop at kid height, chalk lines ghosting the sidewalk, a pot of marigolds trying too hard on the steps. "It looks like a place people actually live," she said. "That's perfect." Inside, daytime filled everything. The living room window washed the couch in clean light. A knitted throw lay crooked. A half-finished jigsaw puzzle sat on the coffee table. On the wall, a corkboard held school flyers, a color-coded calendar, and a lopsided paper star with Sophie spelled in big block letters. The kitchen was honest. Apples in a bowl, a grocery list on the fridge, 2 lunchboxes drying on a towel by the sink. "This is where we land," David said. He set the keys in a dish and motioned toward the table. "Hungry. Starving," she admitted, and laughed at the relief of saying something simple. He laid out bread, peanut butter, and honey, moving with the muscle memory of 1,000 school mornings. He poured 2 lemonades, slid one to her, and watched her scan the room like you do when you're aligning your idea of a person with the facts of their life. "Is that Sophie's?" Victoria pointed at a small shelf crowded with novels, paperbacks with cracked spines, a science fair ribbon taped to the side. "Yeah," David said. "We do a chapter most nights." She pretends not to like it and then reads ahead. "She looks brave in the pictures," Victoria said. "You said that earlier." "I see it." "She is," he said. "So are you." They ate without ceremony. The sunlight made the honey glow. When they finished, David rinsed plates and left them to dry. Victoria walked to the corkboard and read the calendar squares. Recital 3 p.m., Science Club, Laura, 1 year, dentist, math test, father-daughter hike. Her eye paused on the one with Laura's name. She didn't speak to it. She didn't need to. "Can I ask one small thing before we get Sophie?" she said, still looking at the calendar. "Of course. Did you ever try to find me?" "No challenge, just a true question." David nodded once. "I did. There are letters in a shoebox in the hall closet with stamps that say return to sender. Some were never opened. I kept them anyway." He held her gaze. "We can look at them together later if you want. Or not. No pressure." "I want to," she said. "Not today, but I want to." She exhaled. "Thank you for telling me." He checked the time. "Bus gets here in 20. I usually meet her at the corner. We can tell her as soon as she steps off, or we can start gentle. 'This is Victoria, someone important to me,' and say the rest inside. Your call matters." Victoria thought, then nodded. "Start gentle outside. Full truth inside." I don't want her to feel rushed with neighbors around. Good, he said. That's how I was thinking too. He texted Sophie. Meet you at the corner. Got someone I want you to meet. Good day? Three dots appeared. Then, art class was chaos. Coming. A cat sticker followed. He showed Victoria without comment. She smiled at the sticker like it was proof of a kid she could love. They stepped back into the bright afternoon and walked the short block to the bus stop. The sun made the pavement a little tacky. The air smelled like cut grass and detergent from a sprinkler wet sheet drying on a line. David slowed his pace, so they arrived with a minute to spare. He stood at the curb. Victoria stood beside him, hands clasped and unclasped, then steadied. How do you want me to handle what your mother might have told her? David asked. About you. About me. Let's not talk about my mother today, Victoria said quietly. Let's talk about us. Sophie first. Facts only. No blame. She glanced at him. We can carry the messy parts later. He nodded. Deal. They watched the far end of the street where the bus always appeared. Same time, same route, same sigh of brakes that meant a kid's day had landed safely. Victoria shifted once, then went still. She wasn't hiding the nerves, and she wasn't letting them run her. David recognized the look. Courage is fear with its shoes on. You okay? He asked. Yes, she said. I'm ready. The bus turned the corner, yellow bright as a coin under the sun. It rumbled closer, blinkers clicking, kids pressing faces to windows. David raised a hand in habit. The bus hissed, doors folded open, and the first rush of voices spilled out into the warm, ordinary afternoon. He caught the quick flash of a ball cap and a ponytail he knew by heart. Sophie stepped down to the curb, scanning, already smiling. She saw David, then saw Victoria beside him. Her smile tightened into curiosity, not suspicion, and she looked up at her father for the cue he always gave. David glanced at Victoria for a beat, ready, and then back to Sophie. Hey kiddo, he said steady. I want you to meet someone. This is Victoria, David said at the curb, steady and simple. She's someone important to me. Sophie looked from him to Victoria, read the calm in both faces, and gave a small nod. Hi, Victoria. Hi, Sophie, Victoria said. It's really nice to meet you. Walk home, David asked. They turned together, taking the short block in bright afternoon light. Cut grass, chalk ghosts on the pavement, a sprinkler clicking somewhere. Sophie filled the air with normal, art class glue disaster, a math quiz that was fine, probably, cafeteria pizza that violated the idea of pizza. Every few steps, she checked Victoria's face, measuring how she listened. Victoria didn't crowd, didn't overshare, just stayed present. At the door, David kept the agreement. Inside for the rest, he said. Okay, Sophie answered. She lined her sneakers on the mat. Victoria mirrored her without being told. Sun washed the living room and kitchen. The house looked like what it was, lived in, cared for. Water poured, everyone at the table. Sophie took her serious talk posture. Elbows off, hands folded, attention forward. Good thing or bad thing? She asked David, not afraid, just wanting the shape. Good thing, he said. And a big thing. We'll go slow. She nodded once. Okay. David glanced at Victoria for the go-ahead. She gave it. He turned back to Sophie. You know the photo in my wallet? The one you put a little purple heart on when you were 5. Sophie half smiled. I remember. That photo is me, David said, and a little girl in a yellow dress. Sophie looked at Victoria and didn't look away. Is that girl you? Victoria's voice stayed even. Yes. Sophie breathed out. So you're my sister. If you want me to be, Victoria said. No grab, no pressure, just truth. I decided that at the corner, Sophie said, barely above a whisper. You look like Dad when you smile. David let out a breath he hadn't known he was holding. Victoria did too. The room loosened. Sophie turned to her father. Did Mom know? Yes, David said. Before she died, we talked about unfinished things. She told me that if this day came, I should choose honesty and patience. We will answer anything you want to know, today or later. Your pace. Sophie absorbed that, then shifted back to Victoria with a child's plain priorities. Do you like books? I do, Victoria said. Do you like the bad kind of soup? Sophie deadpanned. Dad tries to fix it with pepper. Then it's just hot and sad. Victoria laughed. I like honest soup. If it's bad, we say it's bad. Good, Sophie said, satisfied. Can I show you my shelf? Please, Victoria said. They moved to the little bookcase by the window where daylight made the spines glow. Sophie pointed out favorites: mystery paperbacks, a fox-covered nature guide, a science experiments book with stains from a volcano that almost behaved. Victoria asked small questions and knelt to Sophie's height without making a production of it. Back at the table, David sliced apples and set out cheese. They ate the way nerves like: ordinary food, ordinary plates, nothing performative. Sophie studied Victoria the way she studies a new chapter, carefully, with the intention to remember. "Can we take a picture?" Sophie asked. "Not for the internet, just for me and Ms. Alvarez. She likes it when good things happen." David looked to Victoria. She nodded. They stood by the window. Sophie stretched her tablet, counted, snapped. David in the middle, Victoria on one side, Sophie on the other, awkward and proud in equal measure. "Yep," Sophie said, approving the result, and set the tablet down like she'd filed proof. She rummaged in her backpack, returned with a friendship bracelet, blue and yellow thread woven tight, and slid it to Victoria. "I made this in art. It's not perfect. It's perfect to me," Victoria said, fastening it on. Her hands shook a little. She didn't hide it. "In art, we match colors to people," Sophie said, eyes on the table. "Blue is steady. Yellow is bright. You seem both." "Thank you," Victoria said softly. Sophie took a sip of water, then asked the questions that mattered to a 12-year-old's world. "Do I call you Victoria or something else? And are we eating now or later?" "Eat now," David said, setting more slices down. "Call me whatever feels right," Victoria added. "Victoria is fine." Sophie tried the word quietly. "Vicky, is that okay?" "I'd like that," Victoria said. "Okay," Sophie decided. "Vicky." They finished the apples. The room felt like it had gained one more chair it always needed. David kept his tone practical. "After homework, walk to the park? It's nice out." "Yes," Sophie said immediately. She looked to Victoria. "Vicky comes too." "If Vicky wants," David said. "I very much want," Victoria said. Sophie nodded, verdict issued. Then, gentler, "Do we have baby pictures?" "Of me. And of you." She corrected herself with a shy grin. "Of us." "We do," David said. "Some in albums. And there's a shoebox with letters I wrote when we couldn't find you that came back, returned to sender. We don't have to open that today. It's here when you want." "Not today," Sophie said. "Soon." She stood to rinse her glass, then paused and looked back, one more boundary to set. "If I get overwhelmed later, can we take 5? "Always," David said. "Same for me," Victoria added. "You get to call timeouts." Sophie smiled like the ground had just gotten sturdier. "Okay, then today is a good day." They let that sentence stand. Daylight did the rest. They didn't move to the couch. They stayed at the kitchen table where the light was clean and nothing felt staged. Sophie set her elbows back off the surface, serious talk posture again, and looked between them. "I want facts," she said. "No blame today. Just what happened." "Fair," David said. "Victoria?" Victoria nodded. "Okay." She kept her voice steady. "My mother told me you cheated when you were young, drunk, and that she left to keep me safe. She said you weren't who you said you were. We moved. We changed our last name. She kept this one photo but taped over the back, so I couldn't read what it said." She glanced at David. "That's her version." "It's true I cheated," David said, not dodging. "Once. I was 22. I was drinking too much and I made a stupid, ugly choice. I told your mother the next day. She left within a week. I begged for counseling. She said no. I wrote letters. They came back. I called and the number was gone. I haven't had a drink since." Sophie's eyes flicked to the fridge where nothing but lemonade and milk sat on the top shelf. "Since when?" she asked. "Since then," David said. 23 years. Victoria's face changed. Not relief, exactly, but something unclenched. "She always said you'd say you changed," she murmured. "She didn't say you actually did." "I can't fix what I broke," David said. "But I can tell the truth about it and live different." "I did both." Sophie breathed out. "Okay." She wasn't keeping score. She was building a map. "Did Mom hate Victoria's mom?" David shook his head. "Your mom and I met after. She knew the story. She didn't hate anyone. She told me if I ever got the chance to make something right with Victoria, I should take it slowly and let her lead." Victoria looked at him. "She said that." "She did," David said. "A bunch of times." Victoria glanced at Sophie. "My mother wasn't a monster," she said carefully. "She worked 2 jobs. She taught me to read bills and fix a leaky faucet and never wait on anyone to save me. But she also said the past was closed. She wanted clean lines. She swallowed. A stepdad came into the picture when I was 10. He wasn't cruel, but he liked things simple. No contact was simple. Sophie nodded once. People like simple. Simple is not the same as true. They let the sentence settle. Outside, a mower droned on a neighboring lawn. Sunlight stayed steady on the table. I don't need anyone to be the villain, Victoria said. I just need the story to stand up in daylight. It does today. David reached to the drawer by the stove and took out a small brass coin, no bigger than a quarter, edges worn smooth. He set it on the table without ceremony. 23 years was stamped across the face. Sophie leaned in. Is that for not drinking? It is, David said. I keep it out of sight because it's not a badge. It's a reminder. Victoria looked at it without touching, then at him. Thank you for not hiding that. I've hidden enough in my life, he said. I'm done with that. Sophie tapped the coin once with a fingernail, a kid's blessing. Okay, she said, and pushed it back to him. We eat dinner early and walk to the park, like we said. Later, can we start a list of the questions I'll have? We don't have to answer them today. Yes, David said. Anytime. Victoria nodded. Same for me. I have questions too. I'll bring mine on paper so I don't forget. Sophie grinned. We love paper here. They moved to practical things. Homework on the table, pencils out, sunlight still strong. David cut vegetables and started rice. Victoria helped Sophie with a stubborn word problem, not by giving the answer, but by laying out the steps. It fit. It wasn't forced. Half an hour later, Sophie closed her notebook with a decisive hand. Park. Park, David echoed. They stepped outside into the clean afternoon. The air smelled like cut grass and warm sidewalks. Sophie grabbed a frisbee. Victoria took nothing but her phone and the new bracelet on her wrist. David locked the door, checked pockets, and, without thinking, touched the wallet once, still there, like it understood the assignment now. On the sidewalk, Sophie dropped back between them and caught their hands for 3 steps, just to see if it worked. It did. She let go and jogged ahead, turning to walk backward. Important rules, she called. If I get overwhelmed, I call timeout. If you get overwhelmed, you call timeout. If we argue, we stop and drink water. No sad soup. No sad soup, Victoria said, laughing. Deal, David said. Sophie spun forward again and pointed with the frisbee. Race you to the bench, she said, and took off down the bright path. David and Victoria followed, not racing, just moving in the same direction at the same speed, which was the point. The park sat 3 blocks from the house, all open lawn and neat paths, the kind of place that looks better the brighter the day gets. Sophie jogged ahead with the frisbee, then circled back and tossed it to David. He caught it without flair and sent it to Victoria. She laughed at her own clumsy return, tried again, and found a rhythm. No speeches, just a triangle that worked. They played until Sophie called timeout and dropped onto the bench between them. Hydrate, she ordered, handing around the water bottle like a ref. Wind moved the leaves. Kids shouted at the playground. A dog sneezed. Ordinary was doing its job. Can I ask about you now? David said to Victoria. Basics. Where you live. What you do. Sure, she said. I rent with a friend near the river. I'm a junior project coordinator at a design firm. Lots of schedules and vendor calls, occasional crisis about fonts. She smiled. I like systems. They make people calmer. Works for me, David said. I live by lists. Sophie nudged Victoria's elbow. Hobbies. Running, badly, Victoria said. Cooking, better. And I draw a little. She hesitated, then decided not to edge around it. I'm also engaged. His name is Evan. David nodded once, the kind that says keep going. He's steady, Victoria said. Good with his family, clear with money, no games. We met at a volunteer day last year, packing boxes at the food bank. He labels everything in capital letters. I made fun of him and then copied him. Sophie lifted an eyebrow. Rate him. 9 out of 10, Victoria said. He leaves cabinet doors open. Docked 1 point. That's serious, Sophie said, impressed. Dad loses a point for sad soup. Fair, David said, smiling. He kept the next question simple. Does he take care with your heart? He does, she said, no wobble in it. Good, David said. That matters. Sophie watched both faces and relaxed when no awkwardness rose. She hopped up to toss again, called over her shoulder. No sprinting, Dad. Nee. Noted, he said. They threw a few more minutes, then let the frisbee rest and sat. A pair of kids from Sophie's class trotted by. Hey, Soph, one called. Who's that? My sister. Sophie answered without looking at David first. Cool, the kid said and raced on. Sophie turned back, eyes bright but steady. Felt good to say, she admitted. Didn't feel weird. It sounded right, Victoria said softly. They took a short lap on the path, Sophie between them, matching steps. Victoria pointed at a plaque near a young oak. Memorial tree? Yep, David said. Neighbors planted it for a teacher who passed. Good guy. Taught half the street to ride bikes. Sophie touched the stake gently. We should do something for Mom this year, she said. Not sad. Just ours. We will, David said. You pick it. We'll follow your lead. Victoria glanced at him. Thank you, she said, for not making everything heavy to prove it matters. I used to think weight meant meaning, he said. Turns out, light helps too. They reached the far bench and sat again. Victoria took out her phone, scrolled, and held up a photo. This is Evan. The image showed a man about David's height, plain smile, sleeves rolled, arms full of moving boxes with clean block letters on blue tape. David studied the face the way fathers do, checking for hurry, checking for show. He didn't see either. Steady, he said, returning the phone. He'll want to meet you, she said. No pressure. When it's right. When it's right, David agreed. Let's start with dinner here, one night this week. Bring him if you want. Sophie will grade his cabinet doors. Sophie nodded solemnly. I will. They walked back the long way, past the baseball diamond and the flower beds the neighborhood club kept neat. Sophie started a game where you had to name something you were glad for every time you passed a trash can. Clean water, she said at the first. Pencils that don't squeak, Victoria said at the second. Reliable cars, David said at the third, and made them both laugh. Half a block from home, Sophie slowed. Can we take one picture here? She asked, pointing at a low wall painted with murals by local kids. Like the one in your wallet, but us now. I'm a little big for shoulders, Victoria said. We improvise, Sophie said. She positioned them with quick director hands. David in the middle, Sophie on the wall, Victoria beside, all three leaning in. A neighbor walking a dog offered to snap it. They said yes. Click. Daylight did the rest. Sophie checked the screen and nodded. Proof, she said. Proof, Victoria echoed. Back at the house, the afternoon still had edges left. Homework finished fast under kitchen light. David chopped vegetables. Victoria stirred. Sophie set the table and, without comment, added a third fork to the drawer's usual two. It looked right there. They ate early, as promised. Rice, chicken, the good broccoli. Conversation stayed simple on purpose. After, Sophie cleared plates and pulled out a sheet of paper. Question list, she said. We don't answer tonight. We just collect. Start it, David said. Sophie wrote. When was the photo taken? What's my first memory with Vicky? Then pushed the pen to Victoria. Victoria added, what did you do on my 4th birthday? And gave the pen back. No rush. No crowding. Just a list. When the dishes were done, Sophie yawned so widely she laughed at herself. I'm not tired, she insisted, obviously tired. We'll read one chapter, David said. Then lights. Vicky gets a vote, Sophie said. Stay. If you want me to, Victoria said. I want, Sophie answered, and took both of their hands for the 3 steps to the living room, just to see if that worked too. It did. The next day, late morning, the house felt like Saturday even though it wasn't. Windows open, sun strong, dishes drying by the sink. David was slicing fruit while Sophie copied homework answers onto a clean sheet, for neatness only. A knock came. Sophie looked up at him. He nodded. She ran to the door and opened it wide. Vicky, she said, grinning. Hey, Victoria said. She stepped into the bright hallway and held up a small cream envelope. I brought something. They sat at the kitchen table because that's where new things had worked so far. Victoria set the envelope down and slid it toward David. His name was written in her neat hand, David Monroe. He glanced at her for permission. She nodded. He opened it. Inside was a simple, clear invitation, daytime ceremony, garden venue, 6 weeks away. Victoria Hart and Evan Cole. RSVP card tucked behind it. The design had no frills, black type, straight lines, honest. I want you there, Victoria said. If you want to be. I do, David said. No thinking required. Thank you. Sophie leaned in with both elbows, then remembered, raised them off, and leaned in anyway. Can I see? She read fast. Daytime wedding. Good choice. Victoria smiled. I also want you both to meet Evan. Soon. He's steady, he's kind, and he labels boxes like a man possessed. Bring him to dinner this week, David said. Daylight. We'll keep it simple. I'll ask him today, Victoria said. She watched David thumb the edge of the card like it might be fragile and added, There's one more thing. Say it, he said. I'd like you to walk me down the aisle, Victoria said. She didn't pat it or test it. She just placed it on the table with the rest of the truth. Only if it feels right to you. The room went quiet in the good way. Sophie was first. Yes, she said, as if there had been a vote. Dad should. David cleared his throat once. If you want me to, I will, he said. I'd be honored. I want you to, she said. Relief softened her shoulders. She took a breath for the part that would not be simple. My mother will be there. David nodded, not surprised. Do you want to tell her about me before the day? Yes, Victoria said. I need to say it myself. I haven't told her yet. She still thinks the past is closed. I'm going to open the door anyway. But, she looked him in the eye. No scenes. No blame exchange. If she's cold, we stay warm. If she's sharp, we stay steady. I want a clean wedding day. You'll get one, David said. I won't add heat. Sophie raised a hand like class. Logistics, she said. Where do we stand so there's no weird hallway stare down? Victoria smiled at the practicality. Evan's mom is running point. We can put you on my side, second row, aisle seat. We'll do photos with small groups. No forced poses with people who don't want them. Smart, David said. I'll text you the timeline, Victoria added. And I'll ask the planner for a quiet room near the garden in case anyone needs a timeout. Sophie tapped the table. I call timeouts like a pro, she said. We have rules. If overwhelmed, water in 5 minutes. Perfect, Victoria said. I'll send that to the planner exactly as written. David tucked the invitation back into its envelope with the same care he used for the photo in his wallet. What do you need from me between now and then, he asked. 2 things, Victoria said. She held up a finger. First, meet Evan. You don't need to grill him. Just see him. You'll like him. Second finger. Suit logistics. The dress code is simple, light suit, no black. Evan is wearing a navy tie. You can wear any solid that doesn't fight the flowers. Sophie pointed at the corkboard. Dad has a gray suit that makes him look like he knows what he's doing. That one, Victoria said, pleased. And one more thing that isn't logistics. She turned to Sophie. Would you be okay standing with me when I'm getting ready? Not official bridesmaid stuff. Just sister stuff. Zippers and music, and someone to say if my hair is weird. Sophie's eyes went wide. Then she tried to play it cool and failed in 2 seconds. Yes, she said. Absolutely yes. I'm good at music and honesty. Perfect, Victoria said, laughing. She reached into her tote and pulled out a sample card the florist had given her. Small swatches of the bouquet colors clipped to it. Bright daytime flowers, no heavy tones. She slid it across. These are the colors. Sunlight proof. Good, Sophie said. Photos look better when they're not gloomy. She looked at David. Dad, we should practice walking so he doesn't stomp. I do not stomp, David said. Sophie stood and demonstrated a measured pace across the kitchen tiles. Chin up, shoulders back. See? Simple. 1, 2, 1, 2. No stomping. David played along, crossing the room arm in arm with an invisible bride, while Sophie set the tempo like a metronome with her finger. Victoria watched, smiling with her mouth and her eyes, and filmed 6 seconds for later because some proofs need motion. When they settled again, David said, When do you plan to tell your mom? This week, Victoria said. Daytime, public place, no surprises. I'll lead with facts. We found each other. It's good, and it's happening whether or not she approves. I'll invite her to be kind. If you want me nearby, I can be nearby without being visible, David said. Same block, different table. I appreciate that, Victoria said. Let me try first. If it goes bad, I'll call. You'll call, Sophie repeated, like a rule. I'll call, Victoria confirmed. They moved to the practical again. Victoria texted Evan. He replied with a thumbs up, a smile, and a question about what to bring. Dessert, Sophie said, peeking at the screen. Brownies. Brownies it is, Victoria typed. Before she left, they stepped onto the porch for fresh air and a quick photo. Just the 3 of them. Bright sun, clear background. Sophie held the phone at arm's length, snapped to, and checked. Good, she said. No blinking. Everyone looks like they mean it. David slid the invitation into the corkboard beside the calendar. It looked right there. He turned back to Victoria. Thank you, he said again, because gratitude doesn't wear out when you use it. Thank you, she returned. For stopping on the road. For everything after. Sophie locked the exchange with a practical summary. Plan. Dinner with Evan this week. Mom talks soon. Suit plan set. No stomping. Daytime wedding. We stay steady. Perfect plan, Victoria said. Perfect plan, David agreed. The garden was already bright when they arrived. White chairs in clean rows. Ribbons moving just enough to prove there was a breeze. It was all daylight by design. No shadows to dramatize. No corners to hide in. Sophie carried a small tote like a field medic, bobby pins, tissues, water, a snack bar labeled in capital letters because Evan had gotten involved. David held nothing but his suit coat and the practiced pace in his head. 1-2, 1-2, no stomping. They had made it through the lead-up with calm. Dinner with Evan had been easy, brownies warm, labels straight, the kind of steadiness you only pretend to find once you already have it. He and David had ended the night talking about fixing cabinet doors. 2 days later, Victoria had met her mother at a sunny cafe and told her the truth. I found him. It's good. It's happening anyway. Please be kind. There was no scene, just a tight, I see, and a small, stunned silence. Now here they were, in the bridal suite. Really a bright room beside the garden. Sophie stood with Victoria while music played softly from a phone. Hair good? Victoria asked. Sophie circled her with exaggerated seriousness. Hair excellent, she said, and turned to the zipper like she'd trained for it. No weird lumps. Approved. Victoria laughed, then looked at her in the mirror. Thank you for being here. I like jobs, Sophie said, especially with snacks. There was a light knock. David waited at the half-open door until Victoria nodded him in. He stepped inside, already smiling. No stomping, he reported. Good policy, Victoria said. She handed him a small corsage. Will you pin me? His hands were steady. I can do that. He set the flower where the dress said it belonged and fastened it cleanly. He held her eyes for a second. No speeches, just gratitude. You look like yourself, he said. That's the right kind of beautiful. Outside, music tested the speakers. The planner stuck her head in. 10 minutes, she said in a bright whisper. We're seating. Sophie slipped out to her post with the bridesmaids. Not officially one, but exactly what Victoria had asked for, sister stuff. David and Victoria were alone for a short minute. Daylight filled the room and made it hard to be afraid. Quick logistics, Victoria said, back to safe ground. We walk to the first row and stop. You hand me to Evan, then take your aisle seat. Photos after the ceremony are tiny groups, no forced poses. Timeout room is the library if anyone needs 5 minutes. Copy, David said. He tilted his head. If your mother wants to speak to me, I'll be kind. If she doesn't, I won't press. Thank you, she said. She hesitated. If she is cold, don't take it personally today. She builds walls when she's scared. I used to do the same, he said. Learn some other ways. The knock came again, on cue. Line up, the planner sang softly. They stepped into the bright hall, then into the sun. Guests rose from white chairs with a soft shuffle of clothes and good intention. On the first row, Victoria's mother sat upright in a pale jacket, hands folded tight over a clutch. She looked smaller than Victoria remembered, and stronger in that smallness too. When she saw David at Victoria's side, her jaw set and then relaxed half a step. She did not stand. She did not leave. She watched. David offered his arm. Victoria took it. 1-2, 1-2, the practiced pace. You're not stomping, she whispered. High bar, he said, and the corner of her mouth lifted. At the aisle's end, Evan waited, steady smile, breaths measured. David took his hand first. Take care with her heart, he said, low enough not to travel. I will, Evan said, and meant it. David turned to Victoria. Ready? Yes. She wasn't pretending brave. She was being it. He placed her hand into Evan's, then stepped aside to his seat, front row, aisle, just as planned. He felt eyes, but didn't collect them. He found Sophie across the way. Chin up, thumbs up, a tiny coach with bobby pins. The ceremony was built for daylight. Short vows, simple promises, a reading that didn't need a dictionary. When the officiant said, if anyone, nobody did. When the rings came, hands didn't shake. When they said I do, birds punctuated it with indifferent timing, which felt like a blessing in disguise. This was about people, not dramatics. On the way back up the aisle, bride and groom grinned without performance. Guests clapped the easy clap of daytime joy. At the edge of the rows, Victoria's path took her beside the first seat where her mother waited. She slowed but didn't stop. "Mom," she said softly. "Thank you for coming." Her mother nodded once, eyes glassy but held. "You looked happy," she said, as if testing whether the word would sting. It didn't. "Congratulations." "Thank you," Victoria said. She kept moving. Photos were quick and humane. Couples, siblings, the new family triangle, David, Victoria, Sophie, under a bright arch. The planner called, "Library break open," and Sophie announced to no one in particular, "Water and 5 minutes if needed." 2 guests used it immediately. Boundaries worked. David felt the tap before he saw who it was. He turned. Victoria's mother stood a polite arm's length away, clutch tucked like a shield she'd decided not to raise. "Hello, David," she said. No old contempt, no warmth, just a name on clean air. "Hello," he said, matching her steadiness. They stood in the sun like people on a small bridge. "I received your letters," she said. "Most of them. I sent them back because it made the line easier to keep." She looked down at the clutch, then up again. "I'm not here to apologize for the past. I'm here because she asked me to be kind. I can do that much today." "Thank you for being here," David said. "That matters." She exhaled slowly. "I don't know how to rewrite my version of things yet, but I can see she isn't harmed by you now. She has helped. A beat. I don't say that lightly." "I don't take it lightly," he said. She shifted the clutch and pulled out something flat, clear tape brittle at the edges. A photograph, worn and loved, the twin of the one in David's wallet, tape still shadowing the words she had tried to hide. She held it between 2 fingers. "She told me you still carry yours," she said, like a question wrapped around a statement. "I do," he said. "I kept mine too," she said, and passed it to Victoria when she rejoined them a minute later. "You can decide what to do with it." No ceremony, no defense, just a surrender of an object that had done its time. Victoria looked at the tape, then at both of them. "We'll keep both," she said, "past and present." Her mother nodded, the way someone nods when they've done the hard part they came to do. "Enjoy your day," she said, and stepped back to her seat. Sophie slid in under Victoria's arm. "Library room still quiet," she reported, then saw the taped photo and went quiet herself. "Is that yours?" "Ours," Victoria said, plural on purpose. They broke for cake in bright shade, speeches kept under 4 minutes by agreement. When it was David's turn, he didn't tell a long story. He raised his glass and said, "May your kindness be the first decision and your patience the second. And may you always find each other in daylight." He sat down to a soft wave of claps, grateful he hadn't tried to be clever. Later, when the planner called for a few unscripted photos, Victoria touched David's arm. "One more," she said. "Just us." They stood under a flat wash of sun in front of the hedge, nothing fancy. Father and daughter, corsage and gray suit, 2 versions of the same smile. The photographer lifted the camera. "Ready? 1, 2, David murmured. "No stomping," Victoria replied. Click. The reception stayed true to the plan. Daytime, short speeches, clear air. No fog machines, no drama. People moved between the garden and the patio with plates and easy laughs. Sophie patrolled like a junior coordinator, handing out tissues and water, refilling the bowl of strawberries, and pointing lost relatives to the library timeout room that, thankfully, stayed mostly empty. Evan found David by the lemonade. "Thank you," he said, plain and direct. "For walking her. For being here. Take care of her heart," David said again, and Evan nodded like it was the one line of the day he intended to live by. Sophie slid between them. "Thumbs up," small voice. "No stomping," she reported. A+ execution. Evan laughed. David bowed his head at the grade like a man who'd passed a practical test. Photos went fast. The triangle, David, Victoria, Sophie, under the bright arch. Then couples. Then small groups. Victoria's mother joined one photo by choice, a quiet acceptance nobody commented on in the moment. The planner kept it moving. The sun stayed high. They took 5 in the library not because anyone was spiraling, but because the room had a couch and a door that closed. Daylight still found the windows. Victoria sat, shoes off for a minute, bridal calm intact. David waited at the edge of the seat until she waved him closer. "You did great," she said. "Best pace in the building." "I had a coach," he said. "She's 12 and terrifying." Victoria laughed, then sobered without losing warmth. "I don't know how to say thank you that matches the size of today." "You already did," he said. "You asked." She nodded and looked down at her hands. "Mom brought the old photo," she added. "I didn't expect that." "I didn't either," he said. "It helps." Victoria slid a small frame from a tote leaned against the chair. Two panes, side by side. On the left, the worn picture from his wallet, now carefully copied, the crease still visible. "My girls faint on the back if you held it up to the light." On the right, the new one the photographer had taken in front of the hedge, father and daughter in daylight. The same smile 20 years later. "A gift for you," she said. "But it lives where both my sisters can see it." "Your call, mantle or kitchen?" "Kitchens win," David said. "That's where life happens." Sophie peeked in, saw the frame, and grinned. "Diptych. Very museum." She glanced at David. "Can we eat cake now without speeches?" "Strong plan," he said. They cut cake outside. Someone cheered too loudly and then apologized. It was that kind of day. Victoria's mother approached once more, not to rewrite anything, just to put a hand on Victoria's forearm and say, "You looked happy," in a way that landed kinder than it had an hour earlier. She nodded at David. He nodded back. Nobody pushed for more. When it was time to send the couple off, guests lined the path with ribbon wands instead of rice. Daylight turned the ribbons to bright lines. Victoria hugged Sophie first, a quick squeeze with real weight. She hugged David next, longer. "See you tomorrow," she said, not goodbye. "Brunch. 11. No suits. No stomping," he said, because repeating a joke can be a kind of anchor. "No stomping," she agreed, and stepped into the car with Evan. They rolled away under a noon blue sky that made promises feel practical. Back at David's house an hour later, the bright afternoon hadn't moved much. Sophie changed into shorts and a t-shirt and put the new double frame on the kitchen counter, waiting for final placement like it was a ceremonial object. David stood beside her with a small picture hook and a pencil. "Here," Sophie said, tapping the patch of wall above the corkboard. "I level. We see it every time we sit down." "Good," David said. "Mark it." She made a light tick with the pencil. He hammered once. The frame settled on the hook and hung straight the first try. Left pane, young David with the little girl in yellow. Right pane, today, corsage and gray suit, two versions of the same calm. Between them, no tape hiding anything. Sophie stepped back and folded her arms like a foreman. "Yeah," she said. "That's the house." Victoria texted, "Home safe. We have a ridiculous amount of cake. Save room for brunch." A second bubble followed. "Thank you again. For stopping. For staying. For everything." David typed, "Proud of you. See you in the daylight." He added a photo of the frame on the wall. 3 hearts came back, one after the other. Victoria's, Evan's, and then a separate, hesitant heart from a number that wasn't in his contacts. He didn't ask. He just saved it under a name he knew from a long time ago. Sophie poured 2 lemonades and slid one to him. "How are you?" she asked, clinically curious and actually caring. "Full," he said. "Good full." "Me too," she said. She pointed at the wall. "Now when people come over and ask what that is, we get to tell a true story." "We do," he said. They sat at the table where so much had sorted itself out in honest light. Sophie opened her notebook and added a last line to the question list. "What do we do next?" Then she drew a small check mark beside it and answered under it in block letters. "We keep going." David looked from the list to the frame to his daughter and felt the solid click of a life that had been out of alignment finding center. He thought of Laura, of letters returned, of a roadside stop on a bright day that had given him back more than he was brave enough to ask for. He didn't turn it into a speech. He let the facts stand. He topped off their lemonades. "Brunch tomorrow," he said. "Then the park. Then we start arguing about cabinet doors." Sophie smirked. "Evan's ready. He labels." "Good," David said. "He'll fit." They clinked glasses. No ceremony, just 2 people in daylight agreeing to keep choosing steady over loud. On the wall, the 2 photos hung level, past and present sharing a small patch of sun. David breathed once, easy. A single father who'd stopped for a stranger was heading into a future that wasn't small anymore. He hadn't recovered what was lost. He had found what was still his. It felt like purpose, not because it was grand, but because it was daily and true. Ready for a chapter? He asked. Always, Sophie said, and slid the book across the table as the afternoon held.